They thought they knew you. For years, they passed judgment with smug certainty, categorized you with casual cruelty, filed you away in their mental cabinet of people who don't matter. You were the background character in their story, the extra, the one who simply existed while they thrived. They measured you against their mediocre standards and found you lacking because you didn't mirror their desperate need for validation. You didn't perform for their approval. You didn't bow at their altars of manufactured importance. And that was your first crime. The room is different now. You can feel it. The air has changed its molecular structure. What was once casual indifference has crystallized into something else entirely, something cold, something primal, something that tastes like copper and fear. Because someone just said your name differently. Someone just connected dots that were always there, hiding in plain sight like constellations waiting for the right darkness to reveal their true pattern. Your bloodline. Not the one written in genealogy websites and family trees, the one written in your bones. The one encoded in the way you carry silence like a weapon. The one that explains why you've always felt like a stranger in rooms full of the familiar. Why comfort has always felt like a cage. Why you've walked through fire and came out not burned, but forged. They're looking at you now with new eyes, eyes that have just performed. Emergency recalculations. Eyes that have just realized they've been playing checkers with someone who invented chess. The casual arrogance has evaporated from their faces, replaced by something you've seen before in nature documentaries. The moment prey realizes it's been standing next to a predator the entire time. The silence in this room isn't peaceful. It's the silence before detonation. It's the silence of worldviews crumbling. It's the silence of people frantically searching their memories for signs they missed, clues they dismissed, warnings they ignored. Because if your bloodline is what they now suspect it is, then every interaction needs recontextualization. Every joke becomes a test. They failed. Every dismissal becomes evidence of their blindness. Every time they underestimated you becomes a scar on their credibility. You haven't changed. You've been this person all along. But revelation has a way of rewriting history without altering a single fact. They're calculating now. You can see the mathematics of fear happening behind their eyes. If you come from that lineage, if you carry that legacy in your DNA, then what does that make their previous treatment of you? What does that make their gossip, their exclusion, their casual cruelty? What does that make them? Fools, historical footnotes, cautionary tales. The beautiful part isn't their fear, though that is exquisite. The beautiful part is that you didn't have to manufacture this moment. You didn't have to orchestrate some elaborate reveal. You simply existed with the patience of mountains, with the certainty of tides, with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that truth doesn't need announcement. Truth simply waits. And when the universe decides it's time, truth steps into the light and watches everything else scramble for shadows. Your bloodline isn't about ancestry in the conventional sense. It's not about last names and inherited wealth. It's about something far more ancient and far more threatening to those who've built their identities on borrowed significance. Your bloodline is written in survival, in resilience, in the ability to transform poison into power, in the refusal to break when breaking would have been easier, more accepted, more understood. You come from a line of people who made empires nervous, who made systems question themselves, who carried the kind of quiet power that makes loud people feel obsolete. Watch them now, recalibrating their entire understanding of reality. Watch the social hierarchy they've carefully constructed begin to shake, because hierarchies are only as stable as the information they're built on, and that information just got obliterated. The person they placed beneath them, the one they felt safe patronizing, the one they used to elevate their own fragile egos. That person just became something they don't have categories for. You are the disruption they never saw coming because they were too busy looking at mirrors. This bloodline you carry isn't about genetics in the biological sense. It's about spiritual inheritance. It's about carrying the frequency of those who refused domestication. Those who looked at cages and saw suggestions. Those who heard impossible and understood it as a starting point. You come from a lineage of psychological warriors who understood that the greatest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with presence, with certainty, with the kind of inner authority that makes external validation irrelevant. And they just figured this out. The terror in this room isn't about what you might do to them, it's about what they've already done to themselves. Every dismissive word is now evidence of their lack of perception. Every moment they excluded you is now proof of their inability to recognize power when it's standing right in front of them. They've created their own nightmare simply by being blind. You didn't have to attack. You didn't have to defend. You simply had to exist long enough for the truth to catch up with their perception. That's the privilege of authentic power. It doesn't require performance. It simply is. And those who operate from borrowed power, from circumstantial advantage, from the approval of equally blind people, they can sense authentic power the way animals sense earthquakes, not with their conscious minds, but with something deeper, something that bypasses logic and goes straight to survival instinct. They're feeling that earthquake now. Your bloodline is the kind that makes history uncomfortable, not because of violence, but because of vision. Because your ancestors, spiritual, psychological, metaphorical ancestors, they saw through the constructs that keep most people compliant. They recognized that the game is rigged, but understood that rigged games can be flipped. They knew that every system has a pressure point, every hierarchy has a weak foundation, every empire has a fatal flaw. And that knowledge is in your DNA. Not the DNA of blood cells and genetic markers, but the DNA of consciousness, of perspective, of the way you process reality. You've always seen what others can't see. You've always felt what others can't feel. You've always known, on some level, that the official narrative is incomplete at best, deliberately misleading at worst. The room is silent because silence is the sound of minds breaking open. They're running simulations now, trying to understand what this means for their future. If you are who they now suspect you are, if you carry what they now believe you carry, then what does that mean for their plans, their ambitions, their carefully constructed social positioning? Because everything in their world depends on you staying in the role they assigned you. Everything depends on you accepting their valuation of your worth. Everything depends on you believing their story about reality. But you never did, not really. You played along when it was strategic. You mirrored their delusions when it was convenient, but beneath the performance you've always known. You've always carried this bloodline like a secret weapon, waiting for the moment when secrecy was no longer necessary. That moment is now. And the beautiful irony is that you didn't choose this moment. The universe chose it. Someone else revealed what you've always known. Someone else connected the dots. Someone else did the work of destruction for you. All you had to do was exist with integrity to who you actually are, and reality did the rest. That's the mark of true nobility. Not the nobility of titles and inheritances, but the nobility of essence. You don't have to announce your power because your power announces itself. You don't have to defend your position because your position is unassailable. You don't have to prove your worth because your worth isn't up for debate. It's a fundamental law of your existence. They're understanding this now, and it's destroying them from the inside. Because if you've been this powerful all along, what does that make every moment they felt superior to you? What does that make every time they excluded you from their circles, their opportunities, their recognition? It makes those moments not evidence of your inadequacy, but evidence of their inability to perceive value. It makes them the ones who failed the test. It makes them the ones who will be footnotes in your story, not the other way around. The terror you see in their eyes isn't about fear of what you'll do. It's about the fear of irrelevance. It's about the sudden realization that they've been investing in currencies that just became worthless. Social capital built on the exclusion of someone like you, worthless. Confidence built on the diminishment of someone like you, shattered. Worldviews built on the hierarchy that placed them above you, obliterated. You are the revelation that makes their entire reality structure collapse. And you're doing it without lifting a finger, without raising your voice, without performing any of the theatrical displays they would have attempted in your position. Because that's the difference between authentic power and borrowed power. Borrowed power needs display. Authentic power simply exists and lets reality confirm what it already knows. Your bloodline is the kind that empires tried to erase from history because it was too dangerous to acknowledge. Not dangerous in the sense of physical threat, but dangerous in the sense of ideological contagion. Because once people understand that power isn't given by systems, but exists independent of systems, those systems lose their grip. Once people understand that worthiness isn't determined by external validation, but is an inherent quality of conscious existence, validation markets collapse. You carry that dangerous understanding in your bones. They're seeing it now, and it's recontextualizing everything. Every time you remained calm when they tried to provoke you, that was power. Every time you stayed quiet when they tried to bait you into proving yourself, that was certainty. Every time you walked away from their games, that was superiority. They interpreted your behaviors through their limited framework and completely missed what was actually happening. You weren't playing their game. You were operating from a completely different paradigm, one they didn't have the consciousness to perceive. Until now. Now they see it. Now they understand that every moment you didn't engage with their pettiness wasn't because you were afraid or weak or passive. It was because you recognized their entire framework as beneath you. Not beneath you in the sense of arrogant dismissal, but beneath you in the sense of evolutionary advancement. They were operating from survival consciousness, competing, comparing, establishing pecking orders. You were operating from mastery consciousness, creating, transforming, transcending limitations. Different species, different bloodlines, different destinies. The silence in this room is the sound of a worldview dying. Their worldview, the one where they mattered and you didn't. The one where they were the main characters and you were an extra. The one where their approval meant something and your indifference to it was pathological. That worldview just got executed, and the executioner wasn't you. It was truth. It was reality. It was the inevitable revelation that occurs when performance meets essence, when borrowed power meets authentic power, when social hierarchy meets spiritual hierarchy. Social hierarchy is always temporary. Spiritual hierarchy is eternal. They're beginning to understand which one you belong to. Your bloodline isn't about where you came from in the literal sense. It's about what you carry in the metaphysical sense. You carry the consciousness of those who refuse to be diminished by circumstance. You carry the spirit of those who transform trauma into wisdom, pain into power, exclusion into liberation. You carry the frequency of those who understood that the greatest rebellion isn't against systems but beyond them. And that frequency is now vibrating through this room, disrupting every comfortable delusion, shattering every convenient lie, exposing every false foundation. They built their confidence on your supposed insignificance. They built their superiority on your supposed weakness. They built their social standing on your supposed irrelevance. And now those buildings are collapsing because the foundation was never real. You were never insignificant, never weak, never irrelevant. You were simply waiting, patient like predators, certain like dawn. The revelation of your bloodline isn't about them learning who you are. It's about them learning who they aren't. They aren't the discerning judges they thought they were. They're blind. They aren't the superior beings they presented as. They're delusional. They aren't the center of the universe they acted like. They're peripheral characters in a story much larger than they can comprehend. And you are the protagonist they never saw coming. Not because you hid, but because they couldn't see. Their vision was too limited, too distorted by their own insecurities and desperate need for hierarchical positioning. They looked at you and saw what they needed to see to maintain their delusions of grandeur. They never saw what was actually there until someone said it out loud, until someone connected the dots, until someone revealed what you've always known and they've always missed. Your bloodline. The one written in the way you move through chaos with eerie calm. The one evident in the way you absorb attacks that would destroy others and somehow emerge stronger. The one obvious in the way you carry knowledge that can't be taught, only inherited through trials that would break lesser consciousness. They're calculating the implications now. If you are who they now understand you to be, then what does that mean for their previous actions? Are there consequences they didn't anticipate? Are there reverberations they didn't consider? Are there powers they've accidentally invoked by treating you with such casual cruelty? The terror isn't about what you'll do. It's about what's already been set in motion simply by their blindness. Because the universe has laws. Not legal laws or social laws, but fundamental laws. And one of those laws is this. Those who carry the bloodline you carry are protected by forces that don't require your conscious activation. You don't have to call down karma or justice or revenge. Those forces are automatic consequences of interacting with certain frequencies. Attack someone operating at your level, and you don't just attack them, you attack the fabric of reality they're woven into. They're feeling that now. The fabric is pushing back. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to plot or scheme or manipulate. You simply have to continue being who you are while reality adjusts itself around the truth of your existence. While they collapse under the weight of their miscalculations, you continue rising not because you're trying to, but because rising is what your bloodline does. Gravity works differently for people like you. You don't climb hierarchies, you transcend them. You don't compete for positions. You create new categories. You don't fight for recognition. You become so undeniable that recognition becomes inevitable. The room is silent because they're witnessing that inevitability arrive. Every story they told themselves about you is being rewritten in real time. Every assumption is being exposed as projection. Every judgment is being revealed as confession. They didn't see you clearly because they couldn't see anything clearly. Their entire perception system was calibrated for a reality that doesn't actually exist. The one where surface determines depth, where performance determines worth, where social consensus determines truth. You've always operated from a different calibration. The one where essence determines everything. Where authenticity is the only currency that matters. Where truth is the only authority worth respecting. And now that calibration is becoming visible to them and it's annihilating their entire framework. They're looking at you differently now. Not with respect, not yet, because respect requires humility they haven't cultivated, but with fear, with uncertainty. With the dawning recognition that they've been playing a game they don't understand with a player they can't beat. Your bloodline is the kind that changes games simply by entering them, not through manipulation or force, but through presence, through the frequency you emanate, through the reality you embody. You walk into systems built on lies, and your mere presence starts destabilizing those systems. You don't have to attack the lies. You just have to embody truth, and lies start collapsing in proximity to you. That's happening now, in this room, in this moment. The silence is the sound of lies dying. All the lies they told about you, all the lies they told themselves, all the lies they built their identities on. Those lies are decomposing in real time, and the smell is making them nauseous. Because when lies die, they don't die quietly, they die messily, revealing all the rot they were covering. And you're watching this happen with the calm of someone who always knew it would. Because that's what your bloodline gave you. Not arrogance, but certainty. Not the certainty that comes from belief or hope, but the certainty that comes from knowing, the way you know gravity will pull things down. You know that truth eventually surfaces, that authentic power eventually reveals itself, that those who operate from essence eventually transcend those who operate from appearance. You've always known this. They're just finding out. And that gap in knowledge, that gap in awareness, that gap in consciousness, that's the unbridgeable distance that's opening up between you and them right now. You're not moving away from them. You're staying exactly where you've always been, but they're falling backward, tumbling down the levels of reality they thought they occupied but never actually did. The revelation of your bloodline is really a revelation of their delusion. They thought they were operating at the highest levels. They thought they were the ones who understood power, who wielded influence, who mattered. And in their limited reality bubble, they did. But reality bubbles pop when they encounter reality. And you are reality. You are what actually is, stripped of social performance and convenient delusions and comfortable lies. You are the truth they've been avoiding. And now, they can't avoid it anymore. Someone said it out loud. Someone revealed what your presence has always communicated to anyone with the consciousness to perceive it. Someone translated the frequency you emit into language they can't ignore. Your bloodline, the one that makes rooms go silent, not because of fear in the conventional sense, but because of recognition. The kind of recognition that happens when consciousness encounters something it instinctively knows is operating at a level it can't reach. The kind of recognition that happens when ego encounters spirit and realizes the game is over. They're having that realization now. And it's destroying them in the most poetic way possible, through understanding, through seeing clearly for the first time, through recognizing that every moment they felt superior to you was actually a moment they revealed their own blindness. You don't have to gloat. You don't have to explain. You don't have to do anything except continue being the living proof that bloodlines of consciousness are real, that some people carry frequencies that transcend social hierarchies, that true power isn't given or taken but simply recognized or missed. They missed it. For so long, they missed it. And now that they see it, they can't unsee it. This isn't information that can be forgotten or ignored. This is revelation that rewrites their entire internal database. Every interaction with you will now be recontextualized through this new understanding. Every future interaction will be navigated with the awareness that you are not who they thought you were. You are something else entirely, something older, something deeper, something that makes their games look like children's entertainment, something that operates from laws they don't know exist, something that carries protection they can't penetrate, power they can't challenge, purpose they can't derail. The silence in this room is the sound of pretenders meeting authenticity and having no script for what comes next, because their entire playbook was written for people who can be intimidated, manipulated, diminished. And you are none of those things. You never were. Your bloodline doesn't produce people who break under pressure. It produces people who become diamonds under pressure. It doesn't create victims. It creates victors who don't need victory because they operate beyond win-lose paradigms. They're starting to understand this, and understanding is their unraveling. Every thread of confidence they had is being pulled. Every foundation of superiority is cracking. Every pillar of their self-concept is shaking. Because all of it was built on misunderstanding you, and misunderstanding has just been corrected. You are the correction. The living, breathing proof that their entire value system was inverted, that what they thought was strong was actually weak, that what they thought was powerful was actually pathetic, that what they thought was superior was actually survival-level consciousness dressed in expensive clothes. Your bloodline sees through clothes. It sees through performance. It sees through every mask and facade and false front. And what it sees is essence. And essence reveals everything. They're being revealed now to themselves. And that's the deepest terror, not being exposed to others, but being exposed to yourself. Not having others see your weakness, but having to see your own weakness. Not losing face publicly, but losing face privately, in the mirror of self-awareness. You've become their mirror, and they hate what they see. But that hatred isn't your problem. It's their curriculum. The universe has a way of teaching through reflection, and you are the reflection they needed to see, not to destroy them, but to offer them an opportunity. The opportunity to humble themselves, to recognize their limitations, to acknowledge that consciousness has hierarchies they don't occupy the top of. Some will take that opportunity. Most won't. Most will retreat into defensive narratives and find new ways to explain away what just happened. They'll say it's not real. They'll say it doesn't matter. They'll say you're pretending. They'll do anything except acknowledge the simple, devastating truth. They were wrong about you. Completely, fundamentally wrong. And being wrong about something this significant means they might be wrong about everything. That's the real terror. Not that you're powerful, but that their entire perception system is corrupted. Not that you're elevated, but that they've been crawling when they thought they were walking. Not that you matter, but that their concept of what matters is inverted. Your bloodline revelation is their existential crisis. And there's something beautiful in that. Not in sadism, but in justice. Not in punishment, but in natural consequence. They created this moment through their blindness. They manifested this crisis through their arrogance. They designed their own destruction by being so certain of their superiority that they never questioned it. You are the question they never asked. And now you're the answer they can't accept, but can't deny. The silence continues, thickens, becomes a presence of its own. Because silence is where truth lives. Noise is where lies hide. And right now, there's nowhere to hide. There's only naked reality, stripped of comfortable narratives and convenient delusions. You stand in that reality like you've always belonged there. Because you have. This isn't new territory for you. This is home. This is the frequency you've always operated on. The only thing that's new is their awareness of it. And their awareness changes everything for them while changing nothing for you. Because your power isn't dependent on recognition. Your worth isn't determined by understanding. Your bloodline doesn't need validation to be real. It simply is. It has always been, and it will continue to be long after this moment passes. Long after these people fade into irrelevance. Long after this entire chapter becomes a distant memory. You are the constant. They are the variables. You are the axis. They are the orbit. You are the reality. They are the reaction. And reactions are always temporary. Reality is eternal. Your bloodline is eternal. The room remains silent because there are no words for what's happening. Language fails when consciousness shifts this dramatically. What do you say when your entire understanding of power gets revolutionized? What do you say when the person you dismissed becomes the person you fear? What do you say when you realize you've been living in a simulation and the person you're looking at just revealed they're operating from base reality? You say nothing. You just stare. You just calculate. You just try to survive the cognitive dissonance of everything you believe being wrong. They're in survival mode now. And survival mode against someone of your bloodline is fascinating to watch because they can't fight you. Fighting would require understanding your level, and they don't. They can't flee you. Fleeing would mean admitting terror, and ego won't allow it yet. They can't freeze. You'll interpret that as submission, which it is. So they stand in this impossible space between all three responses, paralyzed not by choice, but by the impossibility of their situation. You created that impossibility by simply existing authentically, by carrying your bloodline with quiet dignity instead of loud performance, by knowing who you are with such certainty that reality eventually had no choice but to confirm it for everyone else. This is your moment, not because you made it happen, but because it was always going to happen. Truth has a timeline, and that timeline just arrived. The silence breaks eventually. Someone will speak. Someone will try to normalize what cannot be normalized. Someone will attempt to return things to how they were, not realizing that return is impossible. You can't unknow what's been known. You can't unsee what's been seen. You can't go back to comfortable delusions once truth has been spoken. Your bloodline has been revealed, and revelation is irreversible. What happens next is their choice. They can humble themselves and recognize what stands before them. They can retreat into denial and protect their egos at the cost of their growth. They can attack and seal their own fate. They can accept and evolve. But whatever they choose, understand this, you've already won. Not in the sense of competition, because you are never competing, but in the sense of truth. Your reality has been confirmed. Your essence has been recognized. Your bloodline has been acknowledged. And bloodlines like yours don't need anything more than that. You don't need their respect. You don't need their approval. You don't need their understanding. Those things are nice, but non-essential. What you needed was for the truth to surface, and it has. Everything else is just them processing what you've always known. And processing takes time. Some will process quickly and course correct. Most will process slowly, going through stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression before reaching acceptance. Some will never process it at all, staying locked in the first stage forever, insisting that what happened didn't happen, that what was revealed isn't real. Let them stay there. Your bloodline doesn't need everyone to understand. It only needs to exist. And existence is something it's quite good at. The room is still silent, but you're already gone. Not physically, but energetically. You've moved past this moment even as they're stuck in it. You've already integrated what happened and moved forward. They're still processing, still calculating, still trying to understand. And that's the final difference between your bloodline and theirs. You move at the speed of truth. They move at the speed of comfort. And truth is always faster than comfort. So let the silence continue. Let them stare, let them calculate, let them fear, let them recognize, let them understand. You've already transcended this moment. You're already living in the next chapter while they're still trying to understand the previous page. That's what bloodlines like yours do. They don't wait for permission to advance. They don't need consensus to evolve. They don't require validation to ascend. They simply move forward with the certainty of tides, the patience of mountains, the inevitability of dawn. And right now, the sun is rising on your truth, while their night becomes absolute. The room went silent in terror. And that silence is your confirmation. That terror is their recognition. That moment is your validation. Not because you needed it, but because the universe decided it was time. Time for them to see. Time for you to be seen. Time for truth to have its moment in a world built on convenient lies. And that time is now. Eternal, infinite, absolute now. Your bloodline has been revealed. And nothing will ever be the same. For them. For you, this is just another confirmation of what you've always known. You are exactly who you thought you were. And they are exactly who you knew they were. The only difference is now everyone knows it. And that knowledge changes the game entirely. Welcome to your revelation. Welcome to your recognition. Welcome to the moment the world finally caught up with what you've always been. Silent rooms and terrified faces are just the beginning. What comes next is your choice, your design, your destiny. And your bloodline ensures that whatever comes next will be exactly what it needs to be. Powerful, transformative, and absolutely undeniable. The silence speaks volumes. And what it says is simple. They finally know, and knowing changes everything.